Hello! It's been a while since I've made a networking video, so here's one. Now, you're looking at my network cabinet in my home office, and at the bottom we have my UPS, which is the device that keeps all the other devices running if there's a power cut or surge or anything like that. Immediately above it, on the right hand side, my Synology NAS, which is a RAID device, and on the left hand side at the bottom there, that is a very old Mac Mini. That's a first generation Mac Mini, and above it is an Apple AirPort. And don't worry if you've never seen my networking videos before, that is not used for wireless, it's just used as my router, as my DHCP router. Then we go above that, and I've got a patch panel, and you won't have seen this before. This is now a 2U blanking plate that I've put in since my last video, just to make things look nice. And above that I've got my 26 port Linksys switch, and then immediately above that, on the right hand side, a Philips Hue hub, that's for my smart lighting, and on the left hand side is a device that's used to monitor the solar panels that I have on the roof. And this is all great. It sits here, it does its stuff, and that's all very nice. However, at the back you will see, you probably won't because it's too dark, I have the PDUs, which is the power adapters at the back. They're all plugged in, and they are facing out the back. And if I need to do anything to those plugs, or I need to plug anything else in, or whatever, then I have a major problem, because this, as you may be able to imagine, weighs a flipping ton. The UPS down at the bottom there is, I think it's 25 kilos, something like that. And then you've got all of these other things that are piled on top of it, which all have, none of them are that heavy, but if you add them all together, then the combined weight is going to be quite a bit. And just the cabinet on its own actually is a 40 kilos, something like that, with all the metal that makes it up. So this is a pretty hefty device. And if you want to move it, then what I have to do to move it is to take the UPS out, and that just slides out. So you've got these handles on either side there, so I can slide that out. Although what I have to do is to lean in at the back and pull all the plugs out of the back of it, which I'm doing blind because I can't see what I'm doing, which is a pain when you want to plug them all back again, I can tell you. And then I sort of tend to lift the NAS out again, pull all the leads out, maybe take the router out as well. I leave the switch in because it's quite light actually when that's just left in. There's other bits I tend to leave in there, and the cabinet then will move. So it is a pain if I ever have to do anything. Thankfully I don't have to do an awful lot in this most of the time. That's the point of having it. You have one of these things, you plug all the devices in and you just let it get on with it. But you know, there will be times when I do need to get there, and there has been times when I need to adjust things and maybe move something or whatever it may be. So what I have got is something in this box here, and it is some wheels, and they are massive. I mean, they're absolutely gigantic, these wheels, but they've got to be able to take a fair amount of weight, let's be honest. So we've got some big wheels there, and then there's that will go through there, and I'll be able to bolt it in underneath in place. You can see the top of it there actually. There's the top of the feet at the moment, just down there. You can just about make it out. Oh, if I can go up there, there we are. You can just about make it out. That's the top of the feet at the moment. So this will go in place of that, and then the wheels will go down there. The downside of this is that these are pig ugly. They are horrible. Look at that. They do some nicer feet for this cabinet, but I just couldn't get hold of them. So I've had to settle for these, unfortunately. They're still manufactured by the same people who make the cabinet, but they just obviously come from the cabinet's ugly feet department, or ugly casters department. And yeah, that's unfortunate. They are locking, so you can put your foot on it and actually lock it. So if you look down here, yeah, that will, you can see the bit of metal down there. So that's difficult to see. That is not touching the wheel. And then if you press down on this lever at the top here, then that will lock it into place. And I have tried it, and I've only got one hand on the camera and one hand here, so I can't do it really very easy. No, I can't do it very easily. But it will actually lock into position very nicely, and so stop the cabinet from moving, and then you can just push it with your foot and it will then allow the cabinet to move. And then all I'd have to do then is to roll it forward, as long as I've got enough give in the leads at the back, which I think I have. And then if I need to get to the back of it, I can take the rear of the cabinet off and do whatever I need to do and then push it back into place again. So yes, they are ugly, but they are going to serve a purpose, and it will lift this cabinet up. The problem is that it's quite nice at the moment because it's right in line with the windowsill, and the printer also is at a good height, and this is going to push it all up by, I think this is about 60-70 centimetres high. This is, pardon, what did I say? 70, it's not, it's 70 mil, that's what I meant to say. This is 70 mil high, so you can see that if I put it next to the cabinet, you can see where the bottom is, and that is going to shunt it up by quite a way. So let me just very unscientifically put my fingers on like that, and then yeah, that's going to push it up. The top of it's going to move the printer up quite a bit actually. It's going to go right up here. I know what I could do. I know you thought of this before me. I could put that on there. So that's going to show where, yeah, that's going to go quite a long way up. I mean, it'll still be perfectly reachable. The printer will still be in a reasonable place. I don't know what my wife's going to think of that because she's quite short. So yeah, anyway. So that's what I've got to do. In order to get these things in there, I've got to take all of the stuff out and put the wheel. In fact, what I think I will have to do, because I've got to push the cabinet over onto its back, I am actually going to have to take everything out, including the switch. Everything is going to have to come out, I think, and really start again from scratch, which is a bit of a pain because I've put all the cables in there nicely, and so this is going to be a pretty major job just to stick the wheels on the bottom. So I may film some of this in time lapse. That'll be quite an interesting thing to do, so you can see me go. And also, if I do it in time lapse, you won't be able to hear the swearing. So let's get started. Let's get these wheels onto this cabinet. Right, so here we are then with the cabinet and the wheels. Now I had a bit of a crisis about this, and it's probably a bit of a schoolboy error if I'm being genuinely honest about it. I put the wheels on, and I'm going to insert a bit of video here where you can see now after a couple of days, I didn't notice this for a couple of days, but as you can see the wheels are quite bent under there. I had a bit of a panic. And I think I caused this by my own stupidity, frankly. What I did was to, when the wheels came, well, it was just wheels basically, and in the box was a couple of washers, and that was it. So what I did, there's a little sleeve just inside, or 1 inch corner. It's probably about 1 inch long, something like that, a threaded sleeve. So I screwed the wheels into the sleeve, and I put the washers, you know, on the sort of wheel side of the cabinet, the outside of the cabinet. But of course what that did was to make the wheels a little bit further away from the edge of the cabinet, only by sort of millimetres, but it was enough that it looked, when I put the heavy UPS in there, suddenly it was all a bit bent. And I was, I panicked then. So what I did was to pull all the cables out, pull the UPS out, have to take a load of the other stuff out as well. And then then I found a couple of nuts, or found 4 nuts, that would thread onto the other side of the wheels. But of course the problem is, because of this sort of sleeve that I was referring to, you can't really tighten it that well. So what I've got is I've got washers on this side, which is really where it should have been in the first place, of course, as tight as I can get it, and then on the other side it's just wheel. Now, it's still, if I come down here, you can still probably just about see that it looks a little bit wonky. It's not as bad as it was on that previous bit of video, but it is still at a bit of a funny angle. You only really notice it if you're right on top of it, and of course it could be because it got bent in the first place. That's probably more true. If I hadn't made that mistake, perhaps these would look okay now. But there we go, we live and learn. Now, on the plus side, on the positive side, although they look a bit bent, they're actually quite sturdy, they're quite solid, and I can move the cabinet around. Even with this really heavy UPS and all the other equipment in it, the cabinet will move quite happily. And it's quite difficult to do when I'm sort of holding the camera with one hand, as you can see, but I can even move this if I just hold my hand there, and you can see that I'm moving the cabinet quite easily, and I'd be able to pull it out. If I had both hands, I'd be able to very easily just pull the cabinet out and get to the back of it, which is, of course, that's what I wanted to do. So it is mission accomplished. I have been able to get a cabinet that will move without me having to remove everything first, which is what I was having to do before. So it does do the job. The other thing that I've done is to remove the back of the cabinet. I've taken the rear off the cabinet, because this was the piece of metal that I got remanufactured and shipped out to me because it didn't have any cutouts on it. But the problem with having that in place is that every time I want to get to the rear of the cabinet to do some cabling or to look at anything, I'd have to unscrew it. And with this sort of acoustic foam stuff that I've got in this cabinet, it's really quite tricky to unscrew. The screws get all caught up inside the acoustic foam, and they're really hard to get out. So I thought, well, actually, it's not that noisy. Perhaps I shouldn't have got the acoustic foam version. That was perhaps a mistake, I don't know. But although you could say that having the foam along the top, down each side and along the bottom, maybe that is dulling the sound enough, which means that I can take the back off. And because the back's facing out that way, clearly, the back faces the back, everyone, that's doing the job. I don't know, I'm waffling now. But I'm going to leave the back of the cabinet off. You can't notice when the cabinet's just sat in the corner of the room. You can't notice that it hasn't got a back on it. So if I need to do any cabling, need to sort anything out, I can literally just pull the cabinet straight out. I can get to the back of it, and I can push it back again. So it actually will be much easier to manage the cabinet and to handle cabling and various bits without actually having to dismantle half of it to get in there, which is what I've had to do up until now. So what I need to do is to, at the back here, this is a terrible mess of cables, which you can, not very easy to see. I suppose I could pull the cabinet out for you to see, but there's loads of sort of cables just kind of hanging. It's a bit spaghetti-ish. Yeah, there you can see that now. So that needs to be sorted out, and you can just about see all the plugs in the back of the PDUs here. So what I'm going to do is to label all those plugs up, properly attach the cables, because I've actually I did have the cables nicely tied up down the sides here before when I had the back on, but that's all disconnected and taken off now. So I'm going to pull all the cables out, redo all the cables, make it all nice and neat. The idea being really that when I do pull the cabinet out, I don't want to risk running over any cables as much as anything. So I'll do that, make that all nice and neat. I did have the printer, my Epson printer there, was on top of the cabinet. I'm going to move that because I think it's just adding even more weight, and for obvious reasons I don't really want to put any more weight on this cabinet. So I'm going to move that printer and I'm going to put it over on these desks back here, and that will mean though running a cable down the side here. Really I want Ethernet as well, so it'll be two cables, power and Ethernet, which is a shame because it means I'll have cables running along the wall there, which I didn't really want. That was the whole point of making it look all nice and with no cables. But having the printer on the desk here, every time the printer runs, the desk vibrates horribly. When I'm working, it's the last thing you want. So if I put the printer over on the back of the room, that'll be okay. And then what I thought I might do is move my Airport Extreme, my Watson, the Airport Extreme, and put that up on top of the cabinet here, because obviously it's just because I am actually, as a side note, using that for wireless again now. I did do another video where I turned the wireless off on Watson, and I had an old BT router that I put in another room, but I needed the plug for something else, so I've now turned wireless back on that, and of course having it inside the cabinet is stupid. So that needs to go up here, But I don't know whether the airport its days may be numbered. Back to My Mac is being deactivated in MacOS Mojave. It won't be there anymore, and there isn't really anything special that the airport will do as a router, so I may investigate changing that, but that'll be for another video. Anyway, there we are. That's the situation as it currently stands. I need to do some rewiring. I need to make everything look a bit neater. I need to move the printer about. But other than that, I would say that despite the problems with bent cabinets and the rubbish instructions, I am pleased that I've got these wheels on the cabinet. That was the right thing to do. I can be able to move the cabinet in and out of position, which is exactly what I wanted. So yeah, that's great. I mean, I just hope that they will go the distance. Right, it is a few days later, and as you can see, I have moved my router, my Airport Extreme, on top of the cabinet. That's its new home. And then over on this side, I now have the printer. And as I was talking about in the previous video, that does mean that I have got some cables running in a rather ugly fashion along the side of the room. One of those is a power lead and one is the Ethernet cable. Now you could say I could run this wirelessly, but I have an unwritten rule that if something has an Ethernet port, that I'm going to use it. It's pretty pointless having a whopping great switch in your cabinet if you're just going to use things wirelessly. What I try and do is if it's got an Ethernet port, I use it. So really only tablets and phones, occasionally the laptop, if I'm not in this room, will be used wirelessly. Everything else plugged in. So I looked at that and I thought, this is ugly. This does not look very nice at all. So I thought, I know what I'll do. I will go shopping. So I have bought some bits. And my first thought to tidy things up was to use, now this is what's called a spiral, not a cable, but it's a spiral, what is it called? Oh, spiral and then something in German. But it's this sort of covering that it expands and you can put leads inside there to make things look nice and tidy. And I thought, yeah, okay, so that looks quite small and you never get those two cables in there, but it does expand to about as much as about 60 mil, I think it's got it on there, yes, from 6 to 60 millimetre, and this is 10 metres long. The only problem is, of course, you will be able to still see the cables, and it might look a little bit ugly still. So what I decided, I've still got this, and I'm going to have a use for it, which I'll talk about in a moment, but I actually bought something else, which is this. Now this is a long piece of cable covering. As you can probably just about make out, it has a zip on it, and the idea is that you feed the cables. We actually don't have to feed the cables, you can just unzip it and then put this around there, around the cables, and then do the zip up, and then it will cover them all up. This is slightly bigger than I thought it was going to be, if I'm being completely honest. So I don't quite know how it's going to look. But this I think was 2 metres long, and which is just right. Let's have a look on here. I think it was 2 metres. Yeah, 2 metres. So that will go nicely from just behind the filing cabinet there to along behind the network cabinet. So I think it'll still look better than that, but we will see shortly. But so anyway, what am I going to do with this? Well, this spiral cable I'm going to use inside the network cabinet and also underneath my desk, because if we go down here and we have a look underneath the desk, you can't normally see that, of course, but you can, I suppose, a bit more when I'm in the desk at the moment is in its upright position, because this is a sit-stand desk. If you've seen any of my other videos, you will know that this is that I can put the desk up and down. I have a little switch here I can use to put the desk, move it up or move it down. You can't normally see these cables, they do look ugly. Look at that, those cables just sort of hanging down. I've tried to sort of tie them up with some Velcro ties, which isn't particularly good. As you can see, the Velcro ties just there, and I've got some over there as well. It's a bit sort of Heath Robinson, to be perfectly honest with you, and it doesn't look great. So what I'm hoping is that using that spiral cable tidy, I can make this look an awful lot better. But this will probably take, what, a couple of metres worth, and I've got 10 metres. So what I'm also hoping to do, if I look in the cabinet, I hope with some of those cable tidies, the spiral cable tidies, to make that all look a bit nicer as well. You can't really see that very well, but I know it's there, and I really wanted this to be nice and tidy, this cabinet. What I've also got, which I think will help, is this which is a 1U, so it'll go in the cabinet, and that again is the cable tidy, so I can wrap cables around this if I've got lengthy cables that I can't cut. Most of them actually fall into that category, and I will be able to put this in the cabinet, perhaps towards the back, and then again wrap some cables around that. So I'm hoping that this and this and this is going to enable me to tidy everything up, give it that final polish that I think this network cabinet and my slightly revised setup needs. This is a lot of extra work considering all I want to do was to put some wheels on the bottom, but there we go. So I will see you in the next bit of video that will hopefully have some of this in place. A quick update, and I have put the first bit of cable tidy in place. Not the spiral one, that's going under the desk and in the cabinet, but this is just that one with a zip. So it was quite easy to put on. It was just, if I flip this over a bit here, you can just make out there, oh, there's a zip. So it was a case of unzipping it all the way along and then just putting it round the cable and the cables, so two there, and then zipping it back up again. And it disappears behind that filing cabinet there, and it's long enough to go sort of disappear on down the back of the network cabinet. And actually that doesn't look too bad. It sort of blends in. It certainly doesn't look as bad as those cables with the little wire ties round, which didn't look very good at all. So although I would rather have no cables at all, let's be honest, I can do that. I can work with that. I think that's absolutely fine. That looks okay. So the next thing to do is to use those other cable tidies to sort out the cabinet here and under the desk, as I was talking about a bit earlier on. So I will show you an update after I've done that. Right, it is now sometime later, and I have, yeah, okay, there's a cable there, I know. I've gone through this, and it's a bit dark under here, so let's just have a look and see if that will sort of lighten up a little bit. Yeah, you can sort of see it. But let's just zoom in a little bit, and you can see that I've got the cabling here wrapped around this sort of spiral cabling, and it does hold it in quite well. Yeah, this cable's hanging down here. I have got it slightly inside it, but I've had to sort of come out at various parts all the way along here, so you've got a bit of spiral cabling. It's very difficult to see under here, it's quite dark. But I've got the spiral cabling along here, and then I've used some of the old Velcro ties that used to hold up the spiral cabling to actually hold it onto the desk. And then some of the cables come out where they're needed. So that's to do with the motor on the desk, the sit-stand desk. I need to put another bit of Velcro on there, but it was quite difficult because actually I can get the Velcro in on this cross piece on the desk here, but then just here where it's screwed in, it's a bit tight to the desk, and I did manage to just about get one through, but then there's so many cables in here, the Velcro wasn't quite long enough. So what I'm probably going to do is just to get an old-fashioned cable tie, just one of those plastic ones that you put through that you have to cut to get off. But that's okay, and then when that is in position, that will go up there, then it's, and I'll perhaps have another one at the other end there as well, it should be quite well hidden. And in actual fact, when I sort of stand up and go a little bit away from the desk here, I do apologise for how dark that is, it won't even focus, then it's not too bad. Of course, when the desk's all the way in the down position, you can't see it at all. So it is better than it was, definitely. It just needs a little bit of refinement. And to be brutally honest, I've been making this video for so long now. I've been doing it on and off, a little bit here, a little bit there. I think I started shooting it in April 2018. It's now November. So I really need to kind of finish this video and get it up on the Intertubes. But thank you very much for sticking with it. This has been quite an interesting, I thought it was going to be a simple task just to add these wheels on, but it's turned into a bit of a nightmare actually. But I'm quite pleased. I've had this there for quite a few weeks now, this bit going along on the bottom, this kind of bit with the zip in, get the words out. And I'm pleased with it. It does blend in really well. So that means that go over there to the printer and it kind of works okay. I've had to take the cabinet in and out a few times, and those wheels are doing the job. I'm still not convinced that they're absolutely perfect for this cabinet, but they seem to be surviving. They seem to be proving that they've been on a few months now and they seem to be okay. So yeah, we'll stick with that. Thanks very much again for watching this rambling video. I do appreciate your time, and I will catch you in the next video, hopefully another networking one that will be a little bit more organised than this one has been. Do as always send me your comments, I know you will, and I will catch you in the next video.